Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the St. Louis Arts Chamber of Commerce. We are so excited to be participating in Cyber Monday for our art expo, all virtual this year, of course. So hopefully you've had a chance to do some dancing and take a look at some of the booths and go around. But we have our last artist talk of the day today. We're very excited. My name is Jessica. I'm your host for the day. And I'm going to toss the proverbial mic to Russell because I believe in letting artists speak for themselves because they're going to do a much better job than I would reading their bios. So, Russell, can you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your art?
Okay, yeah, Russell Irwin. I'm here in Washington, Missouri, on Elm Street in beautiful downtown historical Washington, Missouri, and I have a studio, just my own studio, working studio and gallery, and then I also have an event that happens here called the Art Experience, where people come and create art my way. And my way is using layers of paper. I create an amalgam of layers of paper, typically kind of in colored mosaic patterns in the lower depths of it. And then I get out electric sanders and sand through the layers and create imagery. And so I bring people in and I'll show you the space in a little bit and walk through a process and everything. And they leave having created a masterpiece of their own in paper.
That is amazing. See, you did that so much better than I could have ever, it's so much better. That's awesome. That's one of the cool things about this virtual experience is that we are transported into your studio. Yeah. Well, while you're walking around, do you want to show us around and then we can chat a little bit more?
So right behind me, can you see that guy?
I can, yeah.
Okay. Now I'm holding this by hand. This is my tablet, so I hope I don't make everybody sick, kind of bouncing.
No, you're good. You're good.
Okay. There's Miles. And then I'm just going to kind of pull back a little bit so you can kind of see that part of my space.
Okay.
My counter where I kind of do business. And so there's kind of a way in and a way out. Okay. So I'm going to take you the way in through the first archway. And I think you might have seen that on my.
I do recognize that one. Yes. I definitely was drawn to it when I was looking through your booth. That's so cool.
So and so anyway, so this is the in archway, I'll say.
Okay.
And so you can see down this hallway some of the works, and some of these are on my virtual in my virtual booth at the expo. I always have this here is a work in progress. That's a work in progress. Can you see that piece?
Yes. What is that?
That's going to be angels.
Okay.
Kind of, it's backlit, Christmas morning kind of a thing, but it's got a long way to go. But I always like to have something up that's a work in progress because, and I always invite people when they're in the gallery and studio to touch everything. I know there's always kind of a hands off, don't touch the art kind of thing, but I really like the nature of art, if you know what I mean, like the way nature handles art, you know what I mean? Even when things even fade a little bit or something, I don't know. Like a perfect example. I put a lot of silver leafing in my work a lot of times, and it tarnishes over time. So somebody gets a piece of work and it has silver leafing in it, and it just changes over the time that they have it. I love it. You know, somebody might want to go back and polish it for them or something, but I love it when it starts to get those blues and browns and greens and things. So
that's so cool.
So I've done a lot of work for professional sports in the past, and that's a piece I did of Albert Pujols. But done a lot of to raise money for charitable organizations around the world and everything through working with the celebrity of the athletes and the organizations and all. In fact, this one right here is something we did for the Pujols Foundation. It's it has 21 butterflies. Had kind of a theme of 21 because of the trisomy 21, and anyway, I had to do that with a person with Downs and a young lady named Jamie, and I did that piece of artwork together, and it was just a hoot. We had a great time together, and so anyway, so I've done a lot of that. I really appreciate that we have that in common, me and the expo, that you guys really care about things like different charitable endeavors and all. And that's been a huge part of my career. So I kind of started with that. Jack Buck and I did a project, and we raised $1 million for the Backstoppers in 2 days, believe it or not, with one piece of artwork. Last
Wow.
time it was actually with prints of one piece of artwork. So anyway, that was a lot of fun. And then it kind of took off from there. But anyway, so then I'm coming back through here, and then back out the other hallway, archway. But I want to take you back. I want to take you back here though, because I passed over this, and this is the important stuff. This
Okay.
is where. So that's the gallery.
Mhm.
This the work gets done.
Okay.
And you can see this station here. Right now, for social distancing purposes, I can get like 6 people max around there. But we stand around here and we work on projects together, put these boards together, and you can see here's my palette.
Yep.
And if you were to see the floor here, it collects all of the extra, you know what I mean, or somebody else's might collect, have paint all over the floor. Mine's got pieces of, paper and everything. And I do want you to.
Exactly.
Hey, Barnabas, come here, hurry, come. I got a studio mate.
Of course.
I took him for a walk, and can you see Barnabas?
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Such a sweetie.
Anyway, so yeah, so there you go. Yeah, you got my studio mate and everything, Barnabas and the whole deal.
So Russell, it sounds like you've been around the block once or twice. It sounds like you've been doing this a while. How did you get started in this medium?
In 1995, I got a commission from the Israel Air Force, and they bought a whole bunch of Apache helicopters and created a whole new wing of their Air Force, and they wanted something to commemorate that, and I wanted to say something more than military hardware. I wanted to say something about their culture. And so I had worked in kind of watercolors, layers of watercolors that, I'd, create really photorealistic pieces with. And I'd also done a lot of things with markers for advertising, for comps and things, for advertising agencies. And I wanted to say something with mosaics, because I thought that was the motif that would kind of represent historically and culturally. And so I came home from work one day, right while I was trying to come up with something, because I didn't want to get into stone mosaics. And lo and behold, my daughter, who's 12 at the time, Ashley, is standing at my dining room table with this concoction of like watered down Elmer's glue and colored papers, and she's tearing them up, and she's making them in these like mosaic sized pieces, and she's slapping them down, and she didn't even bother to put any newspaper down on my dining room table or anything. She's just throwing paint around, and she's just going at it. And I just stood in the background quietly and just watched for a while. I was just amazed. And when I came up and saw the piece she was doing, I was like, that is amazing. Where did you learn how to do it? And she looks up at me and says, Dad, I'm learning it right now. I'm like, oh, okay. So I out of the mouth of babes, right? And I would go to work next day. I went to Art Mart in St. Louis and bought a whole bunch of handmade papers and different colors and all that. And I just went to work and I did this piece, and they absolutely loved it. I loved doing it, and I never turned back. I mean, ever since then, it's been kind of an evolution. Later on, I did a piece that I needed to create a certain effect, and the only way I could think to do it was the sand and kind of a translucency of blending through the layers, and it worked out great. So then I started doing that and never looked back either. And it just keeps going like that. Just keep learning all kinds of. Every job is a necessity for invention.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I love it. That's so cool.
Yeah.
Can you tell us, I know this is the standard question, but where do you find your inspiration? How do you decide what piece, other than maybe like the cardinals and like those commission pieces, where do you decide what to do with your art?
Well, I'll give you two answers. One is I work mainly by commission.
Okay.
I mean, like over my career, I'd say, oh my goodness, 90% of my work is 90 something percent of my work has been by commission.
Very cool.
And so, so there you go. There's the
Yeah.
motivator. Keep the bread on the table, right? And then so I'm a Christian, and as a Christian, I would say I kind of hang out in the studio with the Holy Spirit. I don't know if that's strange, but I feel like I get a lot of great inspiration. And I would say also just doing the work. You know, there's a strange idea about artists a lot of times that has to do with inspiration, that you kind of like, and I've seen artists who believed this, where they were like, hadn't gotten anything done, had dreams that they put on hold for months, maybe years, because they're waiting for the inspiration. They got locked up. And I absolutely believe work does not come from inspiration. Inspiration comes from work. And so if I my studio and I just start sweeping the floor or something, I guarantee you some cool idea is going to come, just pop in my head, just being in the studio working. So I would say that's a huge part of it.
Yeah. No, I know it's a loaded question, but I know it's kind of like the standard ones. We have other fun ones. Okay. Do you have a favorite piece of art that you've created?
Yeah, there's a lion that I did that happened kind of magically. Honestly, this is probably not a good thing to say, but the thing I described about the Israel Air Force one, you'd like to think you made a lot of progress since that first one, right? I have to say that first one is still like one of my favorites because it was so raw. I just had never done it before, and it had, and I think I don't know, but anyway, so that's one of my favorites. But then right after that, I did a lion, and I think that's on my website, just russellirwin.com. I absolutely love that piece. And it's probably my all-time favorite piece, but it was like magical. I mean, I just, on a whim, I just started doing this. I have no idea. And it, all of a sudden I was like, man, don't touch that. That's, what I mean? That's great. Leave it alone. And I can't remember how quickly it happened, but it was awesome.
Oh, that's so cool to hear. All right, we're gonna have to go take a look at that one. Okay. What is the hardest part about working in your chosen medium?
It is labor intensive. I mean, you just imagine you're going to do I got my readers on here. Imagine you're going to do a home improvement project. What is the universal least favorite thing for people to do? Sanding. You know what I mean? Hire the sanding out. Let somebody else do the sanding. You might put up the drywall, but somebody's going to sand that stuff, right? And so anyway, I will say that's one thing. It is labor. It is labor intensive. It is not what some people think. A lot of times people see my stuff and I think, oh my gosh, that must take you forever to do that. And man, I fly. I get going, and I just, like you were talking about earlier, the inspiration and all, and it really goes. I think I can do it faster than anything I did before in another medium.
It's also probably because you're a professional. You know what you're doing.
That's right. I mean, right, exactly. Just kind of being, it's like anybody, once you're familiar with something, you know what to reach for real quickly and all. So, and it is a little bit of a chess match, because the thing is that what you're doing is you're creating these layers of colors. You're going to come, and then I cover them over with others. And when I'm coming back with the electric sanders and stuff, which kind of happen in different stages. I use belt sanders for the early stages, and then I get to like palm sanders, and sometimes it's a back and forth kind of thing where I will then add more paper, a little bit of a sculptive kind of a process, and then sand a little more. Anyway, it goes back and forth, but you kind of have to, in the planning stages of it, you got to know where everything is. You got to know what colors are under there that you're going back after. I think one of the more challenging also is recognizing when something is better than what you intended. So I think that's real challenging. Like if I'm doing something and I'm trying to get down to a layer that I had something in mind and something happens sooner, that's just cooler. I think that's a challenge right there, is to recognize that and say, don't mess that up, leave that the way it is. So, yeah, those are some things that I think are, and then there's the usual, just, the industry, just being an artist and an entrepreneur, business person and all that, you gotta balance it all.
Yes, we have other questions about that here in a minute, but I want to ask, because I know you said you can just fly through things, but what is the usual length of time between like starting the project and like it's ready to go for sale?
Um, so I would say, boy, that's a good question. Because I do think I work large because, it's going to change your decision making if you're holding up, you know, 20 by 30 piece of colored paper in your hand to get started with, as opposed to a paintbrush. So,
Mm.
and one of the decisions that changes immediately is the size of the thing you're going to work on. I work fairly large, and I would say this is probably true for all artists, no matter what medium they're in, no matter what the size is, the complexity is what dictates the time.
Mm.
And really what you are offering your client is your time. I mean, relative to your time, the materials are negligible, really. It's even hard to bill them. At least in my case, it is. And so the more complex kind of pieces. Let me think here. So can you see that one? Yeah.
Yes.
That's called Precious.
Yeah.
And there's a video on my site, in my booth, that you can watch about that. It's about 7 minutes long. That one, probably, if I would have done it, I did it, in shooting sessions for the video. But if I were to just kind of do it straight through, I would say it probably be, like maybe a few weeks or something. Because I'm mixing it in with other things, you know what I mean? So
sure.
I'm just trying to think of something that might be thinking,
Yeah.
if they were interested in commissioning or something, even if it's something that would only take a week to get done, it's going to take a while because it's mixed in with some other things. Here's something that this is my blues piece, and so there's a whole history of the blues all around the border.
Mm-hmm.
I call it biographical portrait. So it's the whole history of the blues around the border, and then the winning season in the middle. And that one I started doing in April, with the design process and kind of just getting everything together.
Mm-hmm.
And because so we're in April and we're not in the playoffs yet.
Right.
And I was so sure we were going to win the Stanley Cup that I just started this piece. And then I really got cocky and started putting all the progress of it on the internet. Every day I did work, I put a little video and show everybody what I did, and I keep boasting that we're going to win this Stanley Cup. And I got all the way down to the last day, that Thursday when we lost the 6th game. I told my wife, I said, we needed to lose that game. I needed another day to get it finished. So that was pretty cool. I was glad to actually have an extra day, and I thought it'd make a better story to win it on the road and take the thing from the jaws of the beast, so to speak. So anyway, on the very last day, I was able to put that cup in Petrangelo's hands, and so that one went from April to June when we won. So that gives you an idea. But it's super complex. It's got a lot of details and a lot of things I had to research. That's a big part of my stuff when I do stuff for sports entities and everything, just telling the story and getting all the history together and stuff. That was a super long answer to probably not a very complicated point.
That's good.
Sorry about that.
No, that's good. You mentioned earlier about being an entrepreneur, about being a small business owner, which is one of the reasons why the chamber exists, is to be able to support artists as small business owners. People kind of forget that part. So what is the one thing that you would like people to know, or you wish people knew about the business of your art?
Artists are awesome. Artists are the hardest workers.
Mhm.
Professional artists are disciplined. They're flaky. They're not um, they're not in the studio and not in the studio.
Mm.
They're not, they're not nearly as well, not nearly as I don't know, weird. I'm a little bit weird probably, but so I don't want to go too far. But I mean, you know what I'm saying? The typical kinds of things about artists. Artists are the hardest workers I know. Artists are and they're super disciplined. And I'm proud of my group of folks, So yeah, I mean, that's the main thing I'd like people to know, that this is real stuff. I mean, nobody's fooling around here. We're showing up every day and just having to come up with something to put on a blank space, whatever your art is, whatever your craft is. And I'll tell you what, you do that for a living, you're going to have to be disciplined to get that done and to actually put food on the table doing that and put people through college and such, so yeah.
I love it. Yes, that we want to just make sure that we're highlighting that it is just the thing that you see in the booth, like at the end, there's all of this.
Yeah.
That's why I love this long form kind of interview series that we're doing, which is really fun. And it's fun because I get to
it's
go
awesome.
deep into your booth or into your like studios,
Yeah.
which you couldn't do if we were in a booth on a street somewhere, I love it.
Super cool. And you don't have to wear a mask.
Yeah, exactly. No
in my
masks.
book.
There you go. Okay, I've got one more question. We'll see if we have any in the chat. But what's the most surprising thing about turning your art into a business?
Well, I've had a number of really surprising opportunities that came my way. The thing I told you about Jeff, it's a total surprise to come home one day and back in the day, I mean, there's some of our listeners aren't going to know what this is, but I had a phone with recording thing on it, and I had received a call, and I hit the button on my phone recorder, and here's this, Russell, this is Jack Buck, and from there he's telling me he wants to commission me to do this piece, and it was a surprise, one after the other. I mean, when he wanted to sell these prints for $2,500 a piece, and I'm like, oh my gosh, that's a lot. I mean, you'd have thought we were selling cotton candy. They sold so fast.
Wow.
And it raised $1 million back stoppers. And I'll never forget the first thing he told me. He said, we're gonna do a great project. We're gonna raise a lot of money. You're not gonna make any money. I'm not gonna make any money, but there's gonna be a lot of money made for a great cause. I said, I'm all in, let's do it. And so anyway, that was a surprise. And
Yeah.
I just feel like I've had a career of so many surprises like that, like things I didn't go after, things I didn't really, I can't credit myself for the, why wasn't that smart? It's like, well, yeah, I just showed up and it's like, wow, that was cool.
There you go. Oh, that's so cool. Russell, it has been just a joy to talk to you. It's so fun to take a peek in your studio. I really, goodness, I really appreciate your time. Is there anything that we didn't talk about that you really want to make sure you get out into the universe?
I think we got
I
it.
think you hit. I think you hit. I just want to make sure we're given space where we need. Yeah, that's awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time. For those that are joining us live or on the replay, just make sure to go check out Russell's booth. And then, of course, if you want to do a socially distanced activity, it sounds like a trip to Washington is definitely due. Like that would be a super fun thing to do. I love it. Awesome.
I'll look forward to meeting you.
Thank you guys so much. Make sure to go check out Russell's booth and some of our other programming, and we will see you next time. Thanks, everybody.